Hey, good evening. Thank you for joining us on the Political Deep Dive this evening. Tonight, we're doing a little bit of a different format. We've got some new co host with me this evening. We'll bring them on here in a second. But I did want to tell you about our sponsor, the Deep End Antiques in Beckley, West Virginia. Whatever you need, military surplus, stones. The guy's got tarantulas. I mean, he's got all kinds of stuff in his store. Great stuff. Whatever you're looking for, great tables, diamonds and quartzes and all these great rocks and everything, gemstones and things like that. Feel free to drop on it if you're I-64 or I-68 heading through West Virginia. Drop on by Beckley, West Virginia, the Deep End Antiques. My buddy Travis Rednick is the proprietor of that store and would appreciate your business. So, without further ado, oops, that's the one I want to get rid of. I'll even bring on my guests. My name is Dave Valente. My guests this week are joining us from somewhere in Indiana, David Fight and Sasha Cohen. How you doing?
Going great.
Good,
Thanks
good.
for having us on.
David's the founder of Fight for Liberty and has a show of the same name. And Sasha Cohen is the city clerk of DeKalb, Illinois. And my other guest, running for state senate in Texas, District 3, is Desiree Lindsay. How you doing?
Awesome. How are y'all?
Great. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Des, you're running for Texas State Senate. You also have a big convention coming up in next week. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it's in Irving, Texas, which is just outside of Dallas. And it looks like we've got almost 300 delegates to the state convention. So it's not a fair. We have speakers coming in Friday, Saturday. We've got a gala happening as well. Business is free. So we do encourage anyone who would like to join and run for national delegate. You don't have to have been a delegate to state. If you do have any interest in running for a national delegate, feel free to hit me up. info@peaceandlovetexas.com or on social media if we know each other. Deadline to apply is tomorrow. So I'm hoping to encourage more people to come out and show support for the Libertarian Party of Texas. Have some good representation in Reno. It's going to be a blast. I'm really excited. We're going to have a booth there. My campaign will. So stop in and say hi if you can attend. We'd love to see you.
Excellent. So Dave and Sasha, what are you guys doing up in Indiana, the wild scene of Indiana?
So we are petitioning to get an independent congressional candidate on the ballot up here. So we actually just got in today, and we'll start petitioning tomorrow.
Excellent. So lots to go over this week. So we've had some issues going on in the Libertarian Party lately. Today we had the Libertarian Party of Louisiana's happened today as well, but Minnesota happened, and just found out that a long-standing chair resigned immediately, almost a day after he was reelected to his sixth term. Chris Holcomb. The issue that seems to have led to his resignation is that the body decided not to run a candidate for governor, which is their ballot access race for 2024. Well, 2020, it's in 2022, but it would affect their ballot access through 2024. It seems to be a kind of a pattern that we're going through with the with the Libertarian Party, is that we're seeing a lot of people getting states that are very important, battleground states. When we talk about Pennsylvania, we talk about Minnesota, we talk about Nevada, Arizona. We're not seeing a lot. I mean, there's a chance that we won't have ballot access for a lot of these races come 2024.
I would be absolutely shocked if we made 50 state ballot access in 2024. Absolutely shocked.
I would be too. I mean, it's very concerning because losing ballot access as a state is a very difficult issue. If you lose ballot access, in some states, it's really just filing papers. But in a lot of states, you have to do what you guys are doing up in Indiana, which is getting ballot access petition signatures just to be able to put your name on the ballot. That's not beyond party. It's just to get your name on the ballot. Um, we have efforts going on in Alabama right now. North of 70,000 signatures that we need to get to be able to ensure that we get ballot access for 2022, just to run candidates in 2022. We've had Herculean efforts done in Pennsylvania, as you guys know.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Uh,
Illinois, we have our statewide slate this year. We'll need 25,000 signatures to make the ballot.
and that's a reduction over the previous years. I mean,
Wow.
Illinois has always been just an awful state to try and get signatures in.
And with the state of national fundraising, it doesn't appear that there's going to be too much help coming down as there has been in previous years, which is really concerning.
Yeah, absolutely. Des, what would happen in Texas if you guys lost ballot access? How many signatures would it take?
Oh, I have no idea. The last time we had to do a ballot access drive was in the 90s. And I shouldn't say we, I just mean the party, because I thankfully did not have to participate. But I know it's a very long road.
Yeah, and I've been in both situations. Luckily, in West Virginia, we got ballot access through 2024 with our last gubernatorial race. But I was in Virginia for a long time, and that one, to get somebody on the statewide ballot, you'd had to get 10,000 signatures, plus you had to get 200 per district, which where I lived, which was fairly congressional district, was fairly easy because it was the Arlington area is very densely packed. But if you go into like Southwest Virginia, like Wise, the Tennessee border, it's hard to get 200 people to sign anything. So
it's hard to find 200 people.
Yeah. I lived in Georgia. Georgia has some of the worst ballot access laws in the country. Just the fact that they haven't had a independent or non-Republican or Democrat run for state house or state senate in decades. Like 1947 was the last one. It's no joke. And the idea that you would willingly give up ballot access in some of these states just seems like either incompetence or malfeasance.
A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B.
Yeah, I think so. So I hope that the people in Minnesota rethink their choice on that. I don't know if they can now, because I don't know if it was a NOTA or if it was just they chose not to run somebody. I know that they had candidates in place, so I really don't know what all the particulars, but I do know that they lost a really great advocate in their state chair, and I do know that losing ballot access will be a pain for everyone going forward in that state. That much is for sure.
We're fighting tooth and nail in New York to get ballot access back, because we had it for
like a half hour,
2.5 years, and lost it pretty much instantaneously.
It's not that you lost it; it was that the state took it away. Like they just changed the rules.
Yeah,
another thing that they can do,
Yeah. Well, to be fair, had we had the old ballot access laws, Jorgensen wouldn't have kept us ballot access regardless.
Sure.
But yeah, I actually lucked out. I ran for office in 2019, and New York gives us a really nice, it's actually like a really nice thing that the Board of Elections doesn't have to do. They give us a year to get our shit together, and there is no signature requirements for that first year of being a party. You just have to get the state party to sign off on your candidacy. So I didn't have to get a single signature when I ran for New York City Council.
And that's nice, and that's the way it should be. If you want to run for office, you should be able to run for office without, I would say there can be like a reasonable, like when I was in New Mexico, I worked for a Democrat at the time, and he's running for state senate. It was 250 ballot access signatures. Not a huge stretch. That was the standard for state delegate and state senate in Virginia. it seems like a lot of states will give one standard for the Democrats and the Republicans while giving a completely different standard to the Libertarians.
Absolutely.
Tennessee is a massive violator of this one. That, it's basically if you say you're a Democrat or a Republican, Tennessee, it's like, come on ballot, But for a Libertarian, it's thousands and thousands.
56,000 signatures.
Yeah, we had.
And they have to run as an independent, not as the Libertarian.
Yeah, and that's what we've had to do over the last few elections is, get our folks on both in Alabama and Tennessee as independents rather than Libertarian, which is a pain. I mean, we're trying to build name ID, brand identification, and your candidate is on the ballot. That's great for them, but it doesn't help the party at all. So. But I do want to give a shout out to the Libertarian Party of Louisiana for electing my friend Heidi Alejandro for the state chair. She is phenomenal. I love her, and I can't wait to see her run the state and see what she does as the chair of the Louisiana Party. I'll have to have her on the show at some point soon. So let's talk about national news. Let's go to national news. This week, I like to call him Ashley Madison Cawthorn. Decided to spill the beans on Washington, D.C., on official Washingtondom, as I like to say it. He talks about cocaine, sex parties, and a culture of unaccountability. Now, the cocaine and sex parties, I'm okay with.
Yeah, sounds like a good time to me.
Sounds like fun.
Right.
Unaccountability. Well, it makes sense with it being Washington, but apparently he was dragged into Senate, or I'm sorry, the Speaker of the House the Majority Leader. He's not the Speaker of the House yet. Kevin McCarthy. They dragged him into the office, and he got an official dick smacking over these statements. But has not retracted.
Not that we kink shame. We don't kink shame.
Yeah, well, no kink shaming. If he's down with it, he's down with it. That's cool. But I will say, when that story came out, I was like, is he talking about one of those Matt Gaetz's parties?
Gaetz actually commented on it. He said,
no
saw the quote earlier today, I don't get invited to the same parties as Madison Cawthorn.
He doesn't get invited because he's throwing them. Come on. You don't have to get invited to your own party, man.
I wonder how this plays for Cawthorn's re-election bid, because he's in a tough primary right now.
I don't know. I mean, I don't see politics in America getting any better. Like, I don't see that people are going to turn out some of these just dipshits like Cawthorn, Boebert, Marjorie Taylor Greene. I just don't see the popular angers like get them out, because I think there's enough that are like, yeah, keep them in. They're saying what I want to hear, and it's scary.
If Boebert or MTG got accused of or said anything about going to sex parties, people would just be intrigued and want to see videos, not disgusted like they are with Cawthorn. So,
well, like I said, with Boebert, that somewhere a stepmom porn is missing its lead actress. We throw some comments in here. I know. Thanks everyone for commenting on Facebook and YouTube and all that fun stuff. If you're on my personal YouTube page or Facebook page, I can't for some reason get the comments to show up into StreamYard, so I can't display them. But thanks for commenting, Liz in there. So good stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I think when this doesn't seem like a surprise to me, like all the stuff that goes on in Washington. I work in Washington. I've not been invited to any of these parties, damn it. And I have not been throwing any of these parties either. Although I should. But I think the only thing that saves Matt Gaetz here is he didn't say that there are a bunch of kids at these parties. because that would have been a telltale sign that Matt Getz was involved. Cocaine, sex parties, children.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's been really
Conservatism
interesting
is
watching the GOP like slip the mask off more and more the last like 4 or 5 years. It's been
right.
I mean, nothing surprises me. It's just like, oh, they're being open about this thing now. Okay.
Oh yeah, and
Right.
it's funny because especially like how they've kind of turned a blind eye to Matt Getz, how people just get labeled with this groomer and pedo and all that stuff, and there's a dude that pretty much has it right out in front of everybody,
Yeah.
and they don't say anything about it. There's no accountability for Matt Getz, Pizza Getz.
Well, there's not accountability for any of them ever, it feels like, So while they're having cocaine-fueled sex parties, which, hey, I support that. I love the idea of libertinism, just being yourself. But in the meantime, we're looking at federal marijuana legislation right now that's most likely not going to pass. So we still have people going to prison and families being torn apart for a fucking plant that just grows naturally. I mean, cocaine does too, but anyway, it's not. That's the lack of it.
It's not even just.
But you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not even just drugs. I mean, think about insider trading. Like how honestly, there should be a camera on Nancy Pelosi's stock market.
There is. It's called. There's a Twitter account dedicated to it. It's beautiful.
Oh, I'm gonna use that for all my trading tips.
I don't remember what it's called. It's like Nancy Pelosi's stock tips or something like that. It's got like 250,000 followers. It's pretty easy to find. There's literally a Twitter account dedicated to just monitoring her stock portfolio and tweeting out about everything she does.
Yeah, I mean.
That's great.
Right.
That's actually a when you think about it. Because I don't.
The truth is often stranger fiction, So.
Yeah, I also don't have a problem with insider trading as long as they make it legal for everyone.
Yeah.
Or make it illegal for everyone. Don't have this bifurcated system where I get Martha Stewart goes to prison for insider trading, or I would go to prison for insider trading, but the secretary, the Speaker of the House just gets a nice large retirement nest egg. So like, I don't get it with the whole thing of unaccountability within Washington, and there just seems to be no move to stop it now. Like there's no one there speaking on, hey, let's stop insider trading within Washington.
Self-regulation. They're not. No branch of government is good at self-regulation.
We investigated it ourselves. Yes, we investigated it ourselves, and we found no wrongdoing.
Right. Just like every shooting. So
yeah. Speaking of laws and stupid laws, Florida this week, Governor Ron DeSantis signed in the Don't Say Gay law. I think it's officially titled Parental Rights in Education. The law seeks to restrict any content that teaches gender or gender roles to kids under the age of, under third grade. And it allows parents to sue school systems that violate the provisions of this law. The problem with the provisions of this law is so poorly written and so hastily passed that it basically, you could make the case that the use of the term Miss or Mrs. When you're talking about your teacher, it talks about gender roles, talks about, what sexual orientation and things like that. It's already being sued by a handful of organizations, a couple of high school students, and some families of transgender students and same-sex couples who have students in the school system. But I tell you what, there's been such a rush to put in these laws to tell us what we are supposed to think We're dealing with some of this even in our local races. In West Virginia, we've got a school board race here where they're talking about a book from Toni Morrison, which describes a sex scene. It's fairly graphic, but uh,
Cool.
parents want to stop kids from reading it. And if you want to stop your kid from reading it, I get that. And the school system where the book had been assigned out as an assignment, the school system allowed alternate educational choices. So you didn't have to read that book. You didn't have to make your child read that book. If you give the option, then you shouldn't be making choices for other parents. Like if I, as a parent, want my child to read the Toni Morrison book, let them read the Toni Morrison book. If you don't want the child to read the Toni Morrison book, choose the alternate educational path. Stop making my choice for me. Stop dictating what my child can learn. I just think for a party that harped on us for being small government for so long, seems to be piling the laws on us quite heavily right now.
Absolutely. I mean, all pretense of having a coherent ideology is gone within today's GOP. It's pure culture war and pure reactionary response to whatever the left has been talking about. So there's no need to keep government small. We're owning the libs here.
Yeah, that seems to be. I mean, I think that's all national politics now is to other the other side, or just a large swath of people, whether it's the libs or the LGBTQ community or the immigrants or whatever. They're the enemy, and we have to make laws to stop them. I think it's very destructive. I mean, and that's why you've seen the rancor and the violence in today's politics just amp up so much, because we've treated it as a zero-sum game, and that if I lose, you win, and I lose, whatever. But nobody can tell me what they lose if someone wins a House seat or wins a school board race. It's like I gotta support the Republican, because if the Republican wins, then the Republican loses, I lose. What do you lose?
Well, I think that they realized a little while back that the duopoly was starting to slip. The team sports mentality wasn't enough to keep people divided. It needed reinforcement, and so they needed the team sports mentality to actually be playing a game, which is now the culture war. And so both sides required these bullshit talking points that where we just amplify the most idiotic talking points on either side, and then people just assume, oh, that's what everyone on that side believes. And I see this probably the worst whenever I talk to my sister on the phone, because she's like mostly a normie. She voted like Johnson, Sharp, and Jorgensen, but she's still like mostly a normie and mostly outside of this stuff. And she's constantly, every time I talk to her on the phone, she's just like straw manning right-wing arguments, like in such a pathetic way, where I'm just like, okay, no, like I spend all day knocking doors, talking to Republicans, like average everyday Republicans. Is what I've done for a living for a couple of years now.
Gross.
Like no one's actually saying most of these things.
I concur.
That like people are throwing out there as like what all Republicans believe, and it's the same the other way around. There are no Democrats that I know, or just left like socially people that I know that are like, no, we need to be teaching kindergarteners sexual orientation and gender roles. No one's arguing for that.
Right.
No, no one is arguing for that.
And I'm curious, David, since you were recently working on a Republican campaign in Texas, how the hell was that? And yes, I've already roasted him.
It was a mixture between horrifying and wonderful. So I would say at least 2 to 5 times a day, I would have somebody tell me in some way, shape, or form that we should either just round up and ship out or murder all of the illegal immigrants in Texas.
Oh, dear God.
But then I would also have about the same number of people a day that would tell me, usually very shyly, that they're kind of actually a libertarian.
Oh my God.
And just, you know, vote Republican because it's Texas and, you know, it's the only way to actually like make your vote count. But I actually invited a bunch of people at their doors I invited quite a few people like at the door to the Texas convention. I was like, well, have you ever heard of Spike Cohen? You know,
Awesome.
he's going to be speaking here in your state for your state convention. You should go see him.
So you're where all the Republicans are coming from.
Oh wow.
I fucking
Oh
hope
my
so.
God.
I hope
Don't
so.
ever
I
come
want
back
to bring
to
these
Texas.
people in.
So,
So yeah, I mean, you said something. This is kind of a trigger for me. Like when Republicans come up to me in West Virginia, like we'll do a booth. In fact, in August, we're going to do a booth at the Berkeley County Youth Fair, and usually across from us is the Republican booth or the Democratic booth, but the Republicans the entire week, because it's a week-long fair. The entire week they'll kind of dive bomb us. They'll come in waves, and it'll be like a state senator, state rep, or delegate, or a local politician. They'll be like, yeah, I really consider myself a libertarian. You know, I have a lot of libertarian positions, and I love to just sit there and talk with them, and like, well, you guys agree with us on a lot of things, and I was like, yeah, we're pro-choice and everything. And they get really squirrely when you say pro-choice and everything. It's a lot of fun to mess with them. So, but yeah, if I had $1 for every time they said I've got libertarian tendencies, when they go back to Charleston, they pass, you know, big government giveaways to big businesses to try and bring them into the state. So, you know, it's like, yeah, you really do have libertarian tendencies. Thanks, guy. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it feels like we're just kind of in this endless outrage loop between the Democrats and the Republicans. Kind of this hate porn of, you know, ooh, this is this week it's, you know, the don't say gay law. Then next week somebody's going to get canceled on
Right.
Twitter and they're going to freak out, and you know, it just kind of vacillates back and forth to ad nauseum.
Everyone has to care about one actor that they don't care about slapping another actor they've never cared about on a award show that they've never watched.
Exactly. Like last week, you know, it's funny. Last week we were doing the deep dive, and we were talking about the awards show. Like, and I had forgotten that the Academy Awards were last week. Like, all of a sudden I see, you know, cruise the news and like,
I wouldn't have known about it if Will Smith had kept his hands in his pockets. I would not have known that the Oscars happened.
This was the greatest advertising.
I mean, big
boom.
same.
Yeah. If this was the greatest advertising boon for the Oscars I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Well, you know who their number one sponsor was, right?
I have no idea.
Pfizer.
What?
Pfizer. Who also, interestingly enough, is about to release in about somewhere between 2 to 3 weeks a possible alopecia cure, which just happens to be the disease that Jada Smith is suffering that makes her bald.
Yeah, but these are some of these libertarian
That's some interesting theories.
That is some brilliant marketing, then.
This is some of those libertarian conspiracy theories we get in trouble for.
Well, especially when you see like the text messages that the whole thing was rehearsed to begin with. It's like,
yeah. I mean, at least that part makes sense that they, you know, that was to engender, you know, more interest in the Oscars, you know, going forward, because really award shows are kind of a thing. Like, I mean, I don't know if you guys probably never saw this, but there was a thing in the 70s and 80s called Battle of the Network Stars. And it was like this athletics competition. And basically it was just a chance to get Lonnie Anderson into a swimsuit and show her off on TV. I mean, that was really, I mean, Lonnie Anderson and Burt Reynolds and you know, a couple of the TV hunks, Lee Majors, into swimsuits and parade them on TV. But you know, it's a television show, kind of a bygone era. Like, I don't really care if
I've not seen that one. I was a little busy not being born.
Exactly. Yeah. Thanks, man.
Wow. Well, gotcha.
All right. Well,
He's younger than my son.
we can take a Geritol and go take a nap. All right. But you know, it's a TV show of a bygone era that you know, ooh, do I really care that the next Batman gets an Academy Award? Would that make me more or less likely to watch it?
Not at all.
Like tonight's the
No.
Grammy. Tonight's the Grammys, and outside of seeing your favorite act lip sync on stage, there really is no value to watching the Grammys. Like
No.
I love.
There's
Yeah.
one category actually this year that I sort of care about.
Oh, which one's that?
Best arrangement.
I knew you were gonna say some fucking theater kid bullshit. Jesus Christ.
There is like orchestra arrangement with Eleanor Rigby that went viral on TikTok, and then the guy got nominated for a Grammy, and I just think that's fucking awesome. So
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate it.
I mean, that is a good reason to care about the Grammys. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
So I used to like always get the like Grammy nominees CD out from the library as soon as it came out and put it on my computer like every year. I have that probably from like 2004 to like probably 2013, like consistently. And I did that because I didn't know any of those fucking songs most of the time. Like,
Oh yeah, it's like now that's what I call music. Those old CDs.
man. Good time.
Yeah, I'm showing my age. Those things.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I actually had never
I'm
heard
showing
of
this
that.
again because I am
So-
an honorary 21.
You're 21.
Definitely. Absolutely. That was impressive.
Didn't feel like it. I still don't feel like it, but we'll figure it out.
Are you still hungover
From
from
LPBA.
Williamsport?
That was a
Yeah.
I'm still a
That was
little
a-
bit hungover from Williamsport.
that was
I
a-
day
that was
trip
a-
through the LPPA convention. It was great.
I still can't like
the shots were flowing. I mean, it was.
Oh, I bet they were.
Shot. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was.
Shots.
I have never been more thankful for having taken psychedelic drugs than about halfway through that day. I'm like, I'm so glad I'm not sober right now. This is great.
I
Somebody give me
could
a-
not have for PA. I was so annoyed the entire day. It would have just
Yeah, somebody gave me an edible halfway through the morning. Our favorite former
Pretty hardcore,
secretary.
man. You didn't even make it to lunchtime. That's pretty hardcore.
Yeah,
Yeah.
our
I got to
favorite,
side with Tom on me.
our favorite former secretary was at that and being a pain in the ass. So I can't. Yeah, I can throw hatchets. I did that at the West Virginia convention a couple of years ago. Lots of fun. Actually, I did it this one too. There was hatchets at this one as well. So let's talk Ukraine. So Ukraine, the Ukrainians are retaking the suburbs of Kiev. So it's again, war sucks. But I'm not going to put anything on the Ukrainians because they were attacked.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Self-defense is not an act of aggression.
Exactly. So
Pretty clear.
whatever they do to the Russians, I'm kind of okay with as long as they're not like it's gross war crime violations. But there were war crimes found as they retook the city of Bucha, I believe is the name of it, and Irpin. They're suburbs of Kiev. They found a mass grave at a Ukrainian church, and they found several people with their hands tied behind their backs and various bad things done to them, including being killed, of course. Well, but they were also killed. They
Wow,
were
we should be
violated.
laughing.
Well, yeah, they were violated. And they were
Bunch of
also,
bad things.
yes,
Number one, dying.
being violated sexually, and
I think I'd rather.
I hate to say it, even sexually, it's not really sexual what they were doing. It's just torture, and then they were run over by military.
Yeah.
I'm so ready for this war to be over. I would love for one of Putin's generals just to walk into the office and just pop him one right in the forehead.
I mean, I think that's kind of how like this either ends with Putin no longer being leader of Russia or like something really,
War III.
really, really bad happening.
Yeah, and in fact, the worrying thing that I've been seeing on American news outlets is, so if Russia decides to throw a nuke in this thing, how would how should the Americans react? And most of them are like, well, we should just ignore it.
I I I sort of think that given the proximity of Ukraine to NATO member states
Yes,
and what fallout looks like, that would probably be worthy of an Article 5 invocation.
I would think so as well. I'm I'm anti-war. I don't want us to get involved in Ukraine. I really don't. But the idea that if Vladimir Putin decides to nuke Kiev or Lviv or sees a shipment of British munitions coming into the country and decides to do it and nuke that and that fallout falls over Poland, I I do think that we've got an Article 5 at that point.
Yeah. And I'm not even principally opposed to, the existence of Article 5 in that setup. I I don't think that it's any less reasonable that we should, cut a deal to defend Poland as Illinois would defend Alabama if Alabama got attacked. The borders and states are meaningless. Mutually agreed defense doesn't necessarily need to be single nation. So
Yeah.
I don't see an inherent issue with the way Article 5 is set up.
I
Do you
don't.
guys really think that Russia would nuke Ukraine, though?
I
That
think
doesn't sound logical.
I think if they did, it would be a high altitude detonation as a show of force, as opposed to like wiping a city off the face of the earth. It would be the last move of surrender now, or like
Yeah.
we're not fucking kidding.
Or a parting shot.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Also
I
possible.
have zero faith in Putin to make a reasonable decision. So, it.
Well, I mean,
do
like,
agree that we're looking probably forward to seeing a show of force. Whether it's what y'all are just saying or just something, because there's just there's so much ego and just complete batshit insanity that is behind all of this. So,
yeah, but the ego wants Ukraine to be Russia, not fucking desert.
Or he wants
right.
what would prevent you from going into Ukraine, though? Either taking it over, but that doesn't really prevent you from going into Ukraine. You can always attack the Russians if you want to, as the country that controls Ukraine, or you could just destroy pretty much everything in Ukraine, and which they've been very effective in doing most of at least the western half of the country. And then on the way out, just drop a couple nukes and say, if I can't have you, nobody can have you.
Yeah.
And depending on where you put it, who's to say? Let's say they drop a couple nukes, and the first nuke hits the old Chernobyl site. The second one hits that massive. I can't remember what the name of the largest nuclear site in Europe now.
I can
we hit
see
both of
the
those.
word in my face, but I can't pronounce
In your
it.
face.
My eyes. I can see it, but I cannot pronounce it.
Yeah. That would make pretty much the entire, at least the western half of the country, just completely inhabitable. And it does create the same buffer that he wants from NATO countries. The only thing is, I would hope, is that a Russian gets that order to do it, and that's when he pops Putin. Like, we're not doing this.
I could see that being the breaking point.
Yeah. But
Hopefully.
he has surrounded himself with a lot of people who don't tell him no. The United States did release something this week stating that Putin is getting bad information from his generals and economic advisors, stating that it's not the information they're giving to him is a lot rosier than is the actual stuff on the ground. So whether they're doing that to sow discontent and distrust between his advisors and him, or if that's really what's going on, I'm not sure. We're not privy to what's going on in the Kremlin at this point. So
Yeah, the scary thing with him is he's had 10, 15 years to eliminate anybody but the loyal yes men. When you look at like American presidents who are crazy enough that people are worried about things like using the nukes, they're in office for 8 years, and the military has just enough of a level of independence that they can't fully replace everyone with yes men. Putin's had the time to do that through the ranks of the Russian military.
he's done it like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's done it 2 or 3 times throughout his tenure, and he's got a pretty fiercely loyal yes man at the head of the military now. So, um, time will tell what happens here. I mean, this seems to be going very badly for the Russians as far as they've lost a lot of the territory that they've gained. They've been pushed back in the Kiev region, although it seems like they're moving to other more eastern regions to kind of hit them. So we'll see what happens this week.
Yeah.
Hey, if American politics wasn't crazy enough, Sarah Palin has announced her run for Congress.
I mean, honestly, at this point, like,
what's one more?
I don't think she did the
Nothing
work.
is shocking.
She's only gotten better since her VP run on almost every issue.
I mean, she literally couldn't have gotten worse. Like, all of this is her fault. All of it.
This is her fault.
Sarah Palin getting the vice presidential nomination in 2008 created the concept that totally unqualified people could seek the highest office in the land, and that's why Donald Trump was president, and that's why Marjorie Taylor Greene and
AOC
and Boebert, and I'm going to ignore that, and just all of the worst, that door was opened by Sarah Palin getting the VP nomination.
I missed what you said, David. So
I said
AOC
AOC while he was listing the incompetent morons that have gotten elected over the last 6 years.
You could have used like Rashida Tlaib, and I would have agreed with you, but
I mean, she's definitely in there. But I mean, Palin's come out pretty strong, like anti-war, pro-drug legalization, and and not just cannabis, but like all the things, because the war on drugs was dumb. She's actually had some really good takes. Almost every time I've seen her face in the last 2 years, it's been her saying something good, which is really weird. But almost every time I've actually seen her come out with a take, it's been decent.
But she a QAnon?
I don't believe you.
Nothing that I've seen.
Who fucking cares?
But,
well, I mean,
honestly,
she's a Trumper. She did
circus.
Yeah, I mean, she did the Stop the Steal stuff, and
yeah, I mean, that's just at this point, that's just standard Republicanism.
Yeah.
It's the line is not very well drawn. It's very blurry at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was some really fun stuff. My last job, I was in Nebraska, and they're petitioning to put voter ID laws on the ballot there at the moment, along with a litany of other things. There's like 14 statewide petitions circling in Nebraska, including like medical marijuana and constitutional carry and like a whole bunch of cool things, actually. So good on you, Nebraska.
And you worked for the worst one?
Yeah, well, that's because that was the only one I knew about when I got there. But the very large difference in responses from people was really amusing, because there was some people that like instantly assumed that I was some like Stop the Steal QAnoner, just because I said the words voter ID laws, and then there were the other people who were the Stop the Steal QAnoners that were just like super happy to hear about me. So it was very interesting. But the amount of times that I got told to my face that there's no such thing as voter fraud or anything questionable in the integrity of our voting system in America, I'm like, have you ever looked into it? Like, at all? Even a little bit?
All right. So yeah. Here's the thing with her, though. She's a very well-known name in Alaska. And there's like 40 people, including their someone post the name of the LP candidate running.
Like I was gonna say, like they matter. Oops.
But,
Oh, jeez. God.
well, I mean, I don't know how they're doing their election. Is it all everybody on the ballot? I know that Alaska did go for ranked choice voting, so I'm not really sure if that's going to play this one or if it's only for November. We'll see. If all 40 candidates are on the ballot, regardless of party, that could be. I would give her the advantage because she is the most well-known name on the list. But I also, that may be a detriment to her because people do know her and people do associate her. Probably not a bad thing in Alaska, but she is associated with Trump. She's on good terms with him. She might get an endorsement from him. Oh, there we go. Chris By is the Libertarian running for. Yep, they have.
That's what I was going to say. Because Amanda told me about him earlier, and she just watched him on a podcast and said she was pretty impressed with what he had to say. Liked his website, pretty standard libertarian stuff, nothing alarming. And she likes his domain, itstimealaska.com. I like that too. I like unconventional.
That's good.
Chris is good people.
If it's like nice. What style of primary it is, like jungle primary, best advance to November.
It's
it is.
Well, no, it's a special election to fill the seat.
Election,
Young, who is
okay.
John Young started in Congress before I was born. This is how long he's been in Congress. How old?
Jesus,
he was
back in the old days.
Back in 1972, he was elected in a special election then, or actually 71. But anyway, he was in Congress for more than 50 years as the lone representative for Alaska. So yeah, I mean, they've had like 2 reps in the entire history of the state, and the guy he replaced had died in office as well in a plane crash. So this is a special election. I think it's going to be happening here in the next couple months, and to fill out the rest of the term, which really isn't all that long, but they've done special elections for a far shorter term. Thinking about John Lewis's term was only for like a 2-month stint, including the dead month after.
You've seen that in Texas too.
Yeah. Oh, shout out to Eskimo Libertarian, Joshua McCose, and Robert Mary. Excellent.
Can y'all see Chuck? He just jumped in here. So everybody meet Chuck if you haven't met him.
Aww.
Speaking of Chuck,
you miss Chuck. I need to visit.
Speaking of Chuck,
you do need to visit.
Researchers from Finland's University of Turku say that cat owners are better looking and have more sex.
This is the way.
I can't. It's science. I can't disagree with this. I can't.
Trust the science.
Trust the science. and it's Finnish science, but it's science. Well, but it's not all good news for cat owners. I will say that cat owners, the reason why is that they're exposed to this parasite called Toxoplasma gondii. That is the culprit. It raises testosterone in men and lowers it in women. Something along the lines now, and it's not good with all the yes, Chuck the Keeper. Yes, I concur. But
more compassionate governor, yes.
Toxoplasma gondii, I believe, is what leads to toxoplasmosis, which is a harmful. If you're with all that sex you're having as a beautiful cat owner, if you get pregnant, toxoplasmosis is harmful to the baby. So, double-edged sword there.
Good thing you can't get pregnant.
I can't get pregnant, and we're not going to have kids, so I'm just going to sit here and be beautiful.
There you go.
Don't be like that.
I'm not getting everything good.
I mean, we know Dez is.
What?
Yeah, there it is. Toxoplasmosis gondii.
Is that any relation to Mahatma Gandhi?
No, different spelling.
Mohammed Gandhi?
I said Mahatma. I said the right name. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm gonna believe you. I think I'm not.
Oh man. I mean, I'm allergic to cats, so I can't exactly weigh in on this specific issue. I do love them, and I've lived with them plenty of times, but they make me die.
So, my wife is
Aw,
also
well, they're
very
Thai.
allergic to cats. She's very allergic to cats. And, in fact, whenever we went home to her parents' place, they got a bunch of barn cats when she left the house. And she would pretty much every time we went home, she would be in a Benadryl daze the entire time. Like she was just passed out on Benadryl. But we found out about Siberian cats. Siberian cats have less of the what people are allergic to is protein in the saliva of cats, and Siberian cats have the least amount of the protein. There are some other breeds of cats that naturally will have less of that protein, but Siberians, by and large, are not completely hyperallergenic, but they're very much more hyperallergenic than most things. So, if you do like cats and you have allergy issues, that's a Siberian. Princess Sophie, the fuzzy butt, for those of you who follow me on Facebook, is a Siberian. She has the fuzziest butt in all the land.
She's beautiful. Your cat and Tom Pinkasov's cat are those are the cats to steal from their owners. I love them.
Don't steal my Sophie. Although she's mad at me, I picked her up earlier.
Okay.
I skipped over a story. So Viktor Orban, another European story. Viktor Orban is the president or prime minister of Hungary. He appears to be heading to another election victory. The results are coming in. About 75% counted. His party, Fidesz, is well on its way to winning the election. So he'll get another 4-year term. He's been in office 12 years. This will take him to 2026. Orban is
holy fascism.
He's
bad.
Yeah, I mean he's the far right nationalist kind of poster boy in Europe now. So he was originally actually, I'll give him credit that he was very good with the border, because they do share a border with Ukraine. They were allowing Ukrainian immigrants to come in. He was not so generous when it was, Syrian immigrants coming over the border. They mined the border and put up a big barbed wire fence, and he's continually on the naughty list within the European Union. So not great news there.
He's, just one of a number of these high profile right-wing nationalists that have picked up steam all over Europe. I mean, Macron had a tough time beating Marine Le Pen to get France's.
They're back in another race.
Yes, he did something really interesting this cycle, which is he didn't announce until 6 weeks before the election, and he timed his announcement to also announcing that they were lifting all the COVID restrictions for France. So he perfectly positioned himself. I was actually just talking with someone originally from the States who's lived in France for 20 plus years, and she expects Macron to beat Le Pen again pretty handily.
Yeah, I mean, Le Pen seems to make noise in the middle of the election and creep up, but her support always whittles away towards the end of the election, and not as many people vote for her as they say are going to vote for her. I think part of that is somewhat propagandizing on the part of the French media to get people out to vote. But there's always the worry there, because we saw Trump. Nobody thought Trump was going to get elected on November 8th, 2016, and I did not, had no clue.
The moment Hillary Clinton said Bastille,
I thought it was going to be Hillary's coronation.
That was it. She said basket of deplorables, and I went, oh shit, he's going to be president.
Yep.
You can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but the media is completely worried about what right-wing nationals, and I'm not a fan of right-wing nationalism at all either. But it seems that because the left-wing assholes will do just the same dumb things, they just don't call it right-wing nationalism.
Well, I mean, the American left is pretty right wing itself.
At least the
At
established,
least the parts of the American left that have any legitimate power.
yeah,
That's
the
an important qualifier.
Yeah, the establishment do, but basically anything that deviates from giving lots of money to the military-industrial complex is seen as awful. So we've talked about pretty much everything. You guys have any stories you want to talk about this week?
Did things happen this week?
Other things happen this week.
I wasn't paying attention.
Dave, plug your show, man.
Yeah, guys, check out Fight for Liberty. It streams usually Tuesday and Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Freedom Time, which is Eastern Standard for those of you that don't know. This week is going to be Kurt Knisley and Larry Sharp on Tuesday and Wednesday. And then I'm actually really excited on the 11th. I have Alex Stein, who's been making some very fun, interesting videos in various city councils across the country, along with Spike Cohen, to talk about how important it is to show up to your local meetings and why being kind of a dork and making a scene makes a difference. So,
Craig Violette asked us to talk about the Final Four. You guys watching any basketball?
all I've watched, so I've watched exactly 2 games, and both games the teams that I hate lost, and I was very happy, but that's it. I watched Duke lose and I watched Nova lose, and that was super fun, and that's all I watched.
You know, I grew up a mess from the time I was about 1.5 until 13. I lived in North Carolina. So North Carolina is a massive basketball state. When I was a kid, they would wheel TVs into the classroom for the ACC tournament and the first couple of days of the NCAA tournament. But I mean, most kids ditch those days anyway, so it didn't really matter. They just did that to try and keep as many kids in the classroom as possible. Most of the kids ditched those days. You had a team, so for me, I was always the rebel in North Carolina, because back in 1980, Duke had never won anything, so I was the like one of 2 Duke fans in my school. And most everybody was a North Carolina fan.
So you practice to be a libertarian.
Yeah. I always joke that as a Buffalo Sabres fan, this is my practice.
Oh yeah, that's even worse, bro.
That was my practice to be a libertarian, was being a Buffalo Sabres fan. But
you're not a Bills fan.
No, not a Bills fan. Although I'm hoping they win the Super Bowl at some point, someday.
Someday, maybe.
But I was a Duke fan. They had some decent teams in the 80s. They never quite made it. When I got into high school, I was already in New Mexico at that point. But they finally won the title. I was a huge college basketball fan because, growing up in North Carolina, then I moved to New Mexico. New Mexico is a college basketball state, even though their programs have never been all that successful. Going to the Pit in Albuquerque, which is if you ever want to watch a bedlam atmosphere in college basketball, the Pit in Albuquerque is one of the best places. So watching that as a kid, but over the years, I've just fallen off with college basketball. I've never really gotten into pro basketball, but college basketball has really just kind of lost a lot of its. And maybe it's because kids are, doing the one and done thing where they just show up for a year and then take off to the NBA. Maybe it's just, I started getting into hockey, and hockey is much more entertaining to me.
So much more entertaining.
Absolutely.
100% my sport. I mean, I grew up in Chicago, during the period the Hawks won the 3 Stanley Cups. So
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Still a thing. I got into it, Dan, here, about the Chicago Blackhawks. They're in a rough spot. You might
be really, really are. and it's sort of tough to complain because like the reason that we had those Stanley Cups and like the team had a massive turnaround from being just nothing to being such a powerhouse was the owner died and the owner's son got it.
Yeah.
And the owner had said like they didn't have a TV contract.
Oh no,
Until like 07 or something.
Yeah, you can.
He said if you want to see the game, you have to buy a ticket.
Yeah, you can watch a Blackhawks game unless you had like a center ice product where you watch the road team's game, and that wasn't even great then because if they went into Chicago to play a game, the arena was so poorly lit, like it was like watching a game in the dark. It was really awful. Like he didn't put any money into the television part of the arena experience. So,
yeah, he hated it. And the son took over and negotiated a good TV contract. Made Chelsea Dagger the goal song, which
it's kind of sad now. It's kind of sad now, though.
That is a bop.
Yeah, I mean it was cool when they were the high flying Chicago Blackhawks and winning Stanley Cups. It's kind of sad now because they've fallen off. I mean I don't want to rub it in too much, but my Buffalo Sabres did erase a 4-0 deficit the other night against Chicago.
God, yeah, it's not what it
my Sabres are getting better. I will just say that my Sabres are getting better. So
yeah, and the Browns are going to have a great season.
I wouldn't know anything about this. I'm an East Coast fan in all of the sports, and we don't really have bad seasons.
Yeah, but you guys have
bad pizza.
And I will tell you, the Rangers, from probably the time they won the Cup in '94 until probably 2007, they were absolute. I mean, they spent a crap ton of money, just a ton of money. Like every high-priced free agent they brought in, and they're back then. Now the current salary cap in the NHL is 80 million. Back then, their salary cap, the salary that the Rangers were playing was like over 100 million at that point. But they never made the playoffs. Like from '94 until 07, they didn't do anything. So,
damn.
Yeah, I mean, East Coast teams have their moments, but they do have more resources to bring themselves back quickly if they have competent management. That was the thing that the Rangers didn't have, was competent management. But yeah, I mean, I'm sad that Coach K did lose and didn't get to the final. That it happened against North Carolina was, I mean, the 12-year-old me that rooted for Duke and hated North Carolina, that stung a little bit. But at the end of the day, I was just like, that kind of sucks. Oh well.
Yeah, see, I grew up in Syracuse, New York, so Duke is on my naughty list.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Gloria with the St. Louis Blues is worse. Actually, the worst one is You Make My Dreams Come True, the Toronto Maple Leafs goal song, the Hall & Oates standard. That is the worst goal song in the league.
I find endless amusement in the fact that the Canadian NHL teams just generally suck. Like, it's their sport, but they're just... Because all the good Canadians play for American teams.
Well, the problem is for the Canadian teams, they're not playing with a level playing field because let's say you are a top flight NHL player. You can go play in New York and your contract's going to go as far as it does in Canada. You may not have as much press scrutiny as say if you played in Toronto. If you are a high profile player and you want to make way more money, go play for Florida, go play for Tampa, go play for Dallas, go play for Nashville. There's no state income tax. So there are places in the States where players will play for a little bit less than their true market value, but they're making way more because they are not paying state income taxes and they've got the best lawyers and agents to help them avoid as many U.S. Federal taxes as possible. So that's
thought of that.
Yeah, that's the thing with the Canadians, why they haven't won a cup since 1993, and I don't foresee them Toronto's got a decent team. Calgary's got a decent team. I just don't see them being as powerful as say Calgary or as Colorado, Carolina, or Florida at this point. So
Yeah, it was really cool a couple years back when Toronto got good at basketball. That was really fun. That summer I happened to be visiting friends and family up in Ontario multiple times throughout that run, and so I was like in a bar in Toronto when they clinched the playoff berth, and then I came back up for the parade, and it was like they'd never won anything before, which I guess is kind of accurate.
Yeah.
But like it was amazing. And Ontario's marijuana laws are you can smoke weed anywhere you can smoke a cigarette. So that parade route was fantastic.
I bet. That was a pretty fun one to kind of catch. I mean, I don't watch much basketball. I caught the highlights. There was that game where the guy hit the amazing, 3-point shot at the buzzer that won one of the series for them. That was pretty cool. It's good to see new teams win championships. I'm a Yankees fan, but I've seen my teams win a ton of times. If the Royals or the Rockies or somebody else wins it, I'm okay with it as long as it's not the goddamn Red Sox.
Right. Right. 100% agreed there. I'm also a Yankees fan. So.
Nice.
I'm a White Sox fan.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, me too. And I come from.
I've been rooting for Chicago teams, unironically.
We're a White Sox family. Like we will not go to the Crosstown Classic because we won't give money to the Cubs organization. We're petty. So I was living in Cleveland when the Cubs won the World Series. And I was like, well, I already hate the Cubs, and the Indians are the ones in it against them anyways. So, all right, I guess I'm buying an Indians jersey and going to the Cleveland bars and rooting against the Cubs for this one. And, man, it was not fun watching them gloat and win. I was not happy for them at all. I hope it's another 100 and some odd years.
Yeah, 2004 sucked for me. Watching the Red Sox win their first, coming back from the Yankees being down 3-0 in the ALCS, and winning that series, and then sweeping the Cardinals in the World Series. That one was tough. In fact, I had an upstairs neighbor. As soon as the game was over, it was like midnight East Coast time, just went off. I mean, just started screaming and like, shut the fuck up, But 2004 was a tough year for me. Anyway, Des, who do you got winning the Stanley Cup?
I don't give a shit. I don't have time to watch sports.
Right? At least say the Stars for Tyler's sake.
Why? They're not going to win. I don't even know.
You're right about that.
I was a sports fan when they did win. I was super into hockey for a while. I grew up with it. Like I'm French Canadian. It's like in our blood. But and I kind of got into it for a while after I moved to Dallas. It was not long after the Stars moved here, and my uncle had season tickets, so that was pretty rad. And then I started working at the games where like you work in the VIP seats. This was at the old arena though. And you have to sit while the puck is in play. So it was freaking sweet. Like you're just there. You put in the person's order into this thing that gets sent and runners run it down. So you're just getting paid to watch a Stars game. It was wonderful, like on the ice.
Awesome.
And I mean, I like most of the playoff games, the finals, everything, but they were playing obviously in Colorado when they won, but we went to the Stars Club, which was there at Reunion Arena, which is where they played at the time. It was great. It was a cool vibe. I love that. I get it. I get, the energy behind sports, but I've just lost any like interest in it. I think
that's fair. Nobody, I mean, it's such a, everybody has their thing. And whatever. That's why I hate when people are like, I'm into this, and then people just start railing on them for it. It's like, no, let them fly their freak flag. Just
Whatever gives them joy.
Yeah, find your joy. Exactly.
It's crazy that in our circles that like the most basic personality trait on the planet, which is enjoying a sports team, can be considered flying your freak flag.
This is true.
That's actually like pretty pathetic of us, I think.
So, Des, tell everybody about your campaign and how they find out more information about you.
Well, it's actually going pretty well. We just got the nomination officially on March 19th. And so we're pretty stoked. We're on a pretty good trajectory. We've actually raised quite a bit of money already. It's a little bit like overwhelming. Like we just didn't expect all the support that we're getting, and we're just floored. It's incredible. The team that we've built has just completely like come together. Everyone is wonderful. There's just a lot of like it's a really well-oiled machine. And there's a lot of camaraderie, and I think with libertarian campaigns, we tend to see that, fortunately, quite a bit. People become better friends when they're in the trenches together. So I'm pretty stoked. I mean, we have as you and I have talked about before, a pretty steep uphill climb, being that it's a three-way race. And the Democrat is every bit as conservative as the Republican. And so that's a challenge. We have to do a huge get out the vote educational campaign, try to reach a lot of the young voters and so on, try to create a lot of young voters and ensure that that people that might otherwise vote Democrat might take a look at us because we are in a state with an abortion ban. We are in a state that's attacking GSM rights and trans children, which is horrifying to me. I'm like, I don't understand why we're attacking vulnerable children. It's astounding. So we're very kind of loud and proud with our, standing beside and behind marginalized communities. So I think we're going to do some cool stuff. I mean, we've got till November, but we've only got till November. So the campaign site is peaceandlovetexas.com. And, check it out. We just actually got a new site up. We got the full platform posted. And I'm pretty pleased with how it looks. So I don't know. I'm excited. I think it's going to go well if we can make, any kind of anything to make the world a better place, and especially rural red East Texas. I'm stoked.
Yeah. I mean, that would be awesome. It's nice that you have two opponents that are pretty much the same wing of the same bird,
Right.
essentially. So it does make the case of, picking up, especially disaffected Democrats that, see someone parroting the same thing that the other side is doing. Like, there's no difference. What are you voting for? What will you win if you win your race, or if they win the race?
Right.
A different letter behind.
And along those lines, we've been reaching out to a lot of nonpartisan groups that, typically side more with Democrats or promote Democrat candidates. And we're finding some pretty good success with that. I think that's going to have a huge impact with this campaign. We actually just got our first official endorsement yesterday that was not somebody within the Libertarian Party, an issues-based organization. So that was exciting. And it was young Americans for, there's a Texas one too. So just pardon me for, dang it, climate action. That's it.
Okay.
So anyway, that was pretty exciting to us. And especially because this month, Amanda Gibbs, who's one of the managers on the campaign, she really wants to have a heavy focus on renewable energy and hugging trees and growing your own garden and on Earth Day this month. Promoting hemp.
That's awesome.
So that was a pretty exciting one for us.
Excellent. Cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's it for the week. Anybody have anything else they want to talk about?
Wait.
I'm in Reno.
I'll be right back. I want to show y'all something. 5 seconds.
Well, while she's doing that, what do you got going?
Well, if anybody's watching and you're in North Northeast,
Yeah.
Northeast Indiana, or I guess
The surrounding
Northwest
area.
Ohio or Southwest Michigan, and you feel like coming down to help an awesome candidate for a weekend, or if maybe you need a job, people should know where to find me and David.
All right, where do they find you?
I am usually bullying boomers on Facebook, and David's on Twitter.
Yeah, usually at David Fight on Twitter.
There you go. And Sasha Cohen on Facebook.
Okay, I want to show y'all something.
Yes.
Great time.
Oh, good Lord.
God.
That was a birthday gift from Sasha in 2020.
Are you letting it age like a fine wine?
That's an insult to the term fine wine, my friend.
I mean, coming from the man who split a tower of Yingling and Rumpelman shots. Oh,
Hey,
I like you.
we had to get rid of.
We're finally
we had
able
get
to
rid of
buy it.
you get Yingling in Texas? They don't even sell it in Illinois.
Really?
This is as far west.
We just got it like in August. Yeah.
Oh, that's so sad for you people. I've been drinking Yingling since before I could legally drink.
I had Yingling.
Actually, me too. I caught my fake ID charge going into a bar where I was probably going to order a Yingling because we were in DC.
There you go.
And I've been ordering them all night.
Nice.
All
right,
Yingling is what carried me through the New Orleans convention. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Actually, at the New Orleans convention, I ate at this place called Mother's in downtown New Orleans, and it was my birthday. It was my 45th birthday, and I ate so much that I was in bed by 9.
Oh my
I was
god.
thug life,
That sounds like a good way to spend a birthday.
overeating.
I'm pretty sure it was only like 9:30 we put you to bed in Pennsylvania.
That's true. Yeah, but that was under different circumstances. All right, everybody.
The
Thank you.
honorary 21-year-old thing is false now. Sorry, Tom, you lied.
It was impressive.
It was a fun time. We'll have to do it again.
Well, yeah, I guess if you start before noon, then yeah. Okay, I take it back.
Also, there was a rally after we put her to bed. Like,
It was true.
Yeah.
it was, yeah.
I had a rally.
Hey, good stuff.
I did not feel like rallying the next day, but I did drive all the way back to West Virginia. So, yeah, that was not a fun trip. All right. So, thanks everyone for watching this week, and we will talk to everyone on Sunday. So, have a good one, guys. Thanks, Des. Thanks, David. Thanks, Sasha, for joining us tonight, and we'll see everyone next week.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, y'all. Have a great one.